Welcome to The Holistic Nurse with your host, Peggy Smith. Peggy will introduce and educate her viewers about the differences between alternative, holistic, and complementary medical therapies. Her goal is to empower the lay medical consumer to learn how to advocate for themselves. So now, please welcome the host of The Holistic Nurse, Peggy Smith.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. Today, we're going to be talking with a guest who's sharing his story with us all the way from London. He is an IEMT practitioner and trainer. He's been a guest on my show in the past, and I'm happy to introduce Matthew.
Hello.
Hi,
How are you
Matt.
doing?
Welcome to the.
Thank you. Yes, good to be back. I've actually relocated to York since we did the
Oh, are
last
you in
show.
York? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in Old York. You're in New York, I believe. So there we go. So today I'm just going to be talking about IEMT, or integral or integrative eye movement therapy, or techniques as we tend to call it now. I will just keep talking for as long as you want, because I talk
Okay,
about
and if
this
I have
all
questions,
day, every day.
you're welcome. You're
Um,
full of wonderful information. A lot of people don't understand what this technique is, so.
And hopefully over this next sort of session, this next sort of 40, 50 minutes, I'll be able to sort of explain a bit about what this is and how people can use it and how it really sort of helps people. So my background is in hypnotherapy. So I started in hypnotherapy about 20, oh God, how long, how old am I? 40, about 20 years ago. Well, I started like learning NLP, stuff like that. And then I went to a networking event and I met a hypnotherapist. And at that time, we had a lot of hypnosis on TV. There was like Paul McKenna and Derren Brown, and quite a lot of hypnosis TV shows. And I was really interested in it because I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was a bit hocusy pocusy kind of. I didn't think it really did anything. And he offered to hypnotize me, in a private session. So I went along and I got hypnotized, and I found it really interesting.
I
And
bet
he
you
said,
thought you were one of those people that thought you couldn't be hypnotized.
not really. I didn't know what being hypnotized
Yeah.
was. I didn't think I was going to be jumping around doing daft stuff, but this was like a clinical setting, it was like an office. So I didn't think I was going to be
Right.
doing anything wild anyway, it was quite a sort of a boring office, So, um, and so it's not that I didn't believe in hypnosis. I had no idea what hypnosis was, so I hadn't done any research on it. And I went back for some more sessions. He said, recommended I should, because obviously. And at the end, he said, "Do you know what? I think you should train in hypnotherapy." So I said, "Okay." So I started doing loads of research, and I read every book. I did loads of courses. I attended courses. I did online courses. I followed some. Unfortunately, he's passed away recently. A guy called Tom Silver, who I thought was brilliant. And what I liked about Tom Silver is very physical emotional replacement therapy. So it's the emotive response. It was a very physical shock induction to move it, which I really liked. I trained in NLP. I trained in hypnosis. I had in hypnotherapy. Then I trained in clinical hypnotherapy. And what I realized is I didn't like a lot of it. I don't like the idea that you go and do this training and then you get given a book of scripts. I literally, on qualifying from one hypnotherapy training, they give you the book of A to Z of scripts. And so if somebody's come to you to stop smoking, here's the stop smoking script. I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. You might as well just have a hypnosis download. There's no point me being there. And so I was getting quite good results, especially with the more physical stuff. And I really liked a guy called Cal Banyan who teaches 5 and 7 path. And I did like a variation of stuff like that. So I quite like the regression, going back to cause and then doing some sort of work around that. And I was having quite a good time, sort of running lots of different sessions with people, mainly like weight loss, smoking, confidence kind of stuff. And then I went down to Brighton to visit someone, a friend who I met through the hypnosis world. And he told me, he goes, "Do you want to come along to like an experimental workshop? It's about moving your eyes and stuff." And I went, "Yeah, sounds good." I don't know what it's about, so I went along. And it was in this small alternative space. There was like dream catchers and cushions and that kind of stuff near Brighton. And I met a guy called Andrew Austin. And when I went in, he said to me, "Do you have a memory that comes to mind that is, worrying, troublesome, something that you don't like?" And I went, "Yeah, of course." He goes, "Keep thinking about that memory." And he started to move my eyes in a very particular way. He goes, "Keep thinking about that memory, keep thinking about that memory." And after about 15 or 20 seconds, he stopped and he said, "When you think about that memory now, what's it like?" And it was extraordinary because it was like, when you sort of see time traveling cartoons, it's sort of like the walls rushing past and you're kind of going backwards. And it was kind of like that going on. And I went from being in this memory, and I was only about 10 years old in this memory or something. And it was like I'd come out of it and I was now looking at this memory rather than being in the memory. And it completely changed the meaning of the memory. It completely changed the emotion. I was seeing it as an adult, and it really removed the significance of the memory. And it just became really hard to get. And I was like, what what's going on here then? Because when I learned NLP and hypnosis, you learn stuff called submodality work, and that is the construction of a memory. Is it a picture or a movie? Are you there? Are you looking at it? The type of colors, what's physical. So basically, the actual physical makeup of the memory itself. And you can do things like swish patterns, submodality work. You can move it further away, change the sound. You can do all of that. But what I found in NLP and stuff like that, if you know how to move it one way, you also know how to bring it back. And with IEMT, it's like it kind of goes through a valve. Once it kind of goes through that process, you just can't bring it back. So I found it really fascinating. And so I went away and I started using this with my clients, just this one little technique, and I was getting really profound results. And not long after, because it didn't have a name, I don't think at this point. I think it was just called eye movement stuff. And so it was then formalized into a 2-day training, IEMT or integral eye movement therapy training. So I went along to do the weekend training and I thought it was really interesting, but I was also very confused by it. There's a lot more than just the techniques. I'll explain a bit more about the training and what's involved as well, but there's a lot more than just the kind of what you see of just doing there's a lot more kind of going on behind the scenes, should we say. And I found it very, very sort of confusing. But I started to kind of piece it together after the weekend and I started to use it with clients. And I was starting to get amazing results with people. And I was starting to get a bit of a reputation because I was the only person in the area doing it. So I was starting to get quite a lot of work just based on, the results I was getting, word of mouth. A few years on from that, it was 2013. Andy put out a thing. I don't think he invited me specifically, but he put out a thing to if you want to become a trainer of IEMT. And I was already running a lot of events and talks and training people, just doing my own trainings, mainly marketing, that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, I know how to train people. I know about this technique. Yeah, I might as well go learn it. So I went to do like this training to become a trainer, and that was in 2013. And since then, I don't know how many trainings I've done. I usually train over 100 people a year now. So I usually do between 10 and 12 trainings a year. I usually have between 8 and 12 people per training. I am increasing this as well, so I'm actually leaning into it even further. So I was working in London and living in London, and I was working and seeing loads of clients. I had different offices. I had an office in the city. I had an office I was using on Harley Street, which is like the big place for therapy. I didn't like it there, to be honest. It's not my kind of place. And then I was working from Old Street for a long time, then from near London Bridge, and I was seeing loads of clients. But then the pandemic hit, and that kind of stopped a lot of stuff. That kind of. I was running a lot of events, and when else I was living in London, a lot of psychology events, and I was also talking all around the UK on IEMT, and these talks were for like the layperson. So there's a company I was working with. I was also running my own, but it was for people just with a passing interest in psychology. So I did do a guest lecture at, I think it was Birkbeck University. It was UCL or Birkbeck. I think it was Birkbeck, and that's about 200 or so, mainly kind of psychology students. That was tough. Because obviously this is still classed as an alternative therapy, so it's so that was fun. And obviously when the pandemic hit, everything just kind of stopped. And so what we did in the pandemic, we moved stuff online. So I started seeing clients online, and I started then doing the trainings online. And what that meant was I could work with anyone, anywhere in the world. And so, excuse me, it really opened that up. And now I train people from all over the world. So if I have a training room with 10 people, usually half of them are in the UK, and then some people are in the USA, Canada, Japan, Australia, literally Europe, absolutely everywhere. And so we've been able to, by going online, be able to get IEMT to a lot of places that it simply wouldn't have been before. So that's been really, really good. So I've been involved with IEMT for about 15, 16 years. I've been a trainer for, like I say, since 12 years, 2013. And it's what I now do pretty much all the time. So I do a training every month, usually the last weekend of the month. It's only a 2-day training, it's IEMT. And the rest of my time is doing the admin around that. And also I do a weekly Q&A with my practitioners. I do a monthly coaching session for my practitioners. And I do podcasts and interviews. And so I'm just trying to spread the message, not the message, that sounds a bit awful, right? But spread sort of what IEMT is, how it can be used, who used it, and the results that are possible from it. So that's my
When you
background.
first mentioned, your beginning memory as a child, it occurred to me this would be very helpful, I guess, for adults that are still wounded by bullying experiences when they were a child,
Absolutely.
because
Sorry, that
that.
drink went the wrong way. Well, so the way that IEMT works, it has different tools. Excuse me. So it has different tools in it, and there are different eye patterns, different techniques that we use for different things. So we have what we call the intro technique, and this is where, like what Andy did for me, when you just have a memory that comes to mind that's unpleasant. And I use this quite frequently as well. So if somebody knows what the problem is, they have a memory, something that happened, you can work directly on that memory and you can cause a very big shift within that memory. A lot of people will come to me and they don't know what's wrong. They just have these horrible feelings. They have these fears, these phobias, this agoraphobia, this low confidence. They just have all these kind of problems. IEMT is an exploration of their issue. How it works in simple terms, so what I believe, we have no scientific proof for this at the moment, I've got to say, but I had a doctor of neuroscience actually come on the course, and she believes what's happening is a process of deconsolidation and reconsolidation. So the memory
Okay,
gets
I'm going to
encoded.
stop you right there, Matt, and we're going to come back right after the break. It sounds like
Okay.
we're going to go into that a little bit. Okay, thank you.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, everybody. This is Peggy Smith, the holistic nurse, and my guest today is Matt Kendall, coming to us from the UK. He's explaining to us, enlightening us all about the technique, integral eye movement technique.
That's correct. So, as I was saying, on one of my trainings, we had a doctor of neuroscience attend, and I did a demo on her. She'd actually had an incident on the train a few weeks prior to the training. And I said, okay, so I brought her to the front and I was like, okay, close your eyes, think about this memory. What's it like? It's like a movie, it's subjective, it's painful. And okay. So I got her to hold that memory and I began to move her eyes. And she looked very quizzical, like, hmm. She goes, I said, what's actually happening on a neurological level? She goes, give me a minute. Right. Okay. So she sort of had to think about it. And then after a few minutes, she stood up and gave like a 10-minute lecture about what she believes is happening. So this is what she believes is happening. It's not what the association or what I claim. This is just her
Okay.
explanation. When a memory is consolidated or created, it takes in what's going on around and it kind of links all these things together, and it's then coded at the time of exposure. So if you have a memory that's encoded when you're 7, it stays as a 7-year-old's memory. That makes sense. So you have like feelings and you have what's going on around you, and that's created through the limbic system. What we're doing with IEMT, we're accessing this memory. We're bringing it into working memory or into the conscious mind. It's being reevaluated through the limbic system, and it's then being consolidated back again to where it belongs. So it allows the brain to process the memory from who the person is today, not the person who it happened to. So a lot of the problems that happened to you when you were a child were a problem because you were a child and you don't have the resources to deal with it. When you go back to these memories as the person who you are now, of course it's not a problem. But what we have in everyday life is what we call imprints in action. So when you learn something when you're a child, we call it an imprint, a kinesthetic imprint. A kinesthetic imprint is where we have a feeling towards something. And that's how we learn. We learn through sort of feeling, and we take on what's going on around us through our limbic system. So you have the amygdala and the hippocampus, and the amygdala picks up all the sensory information. So the sight, sound, smell, taste, feeling here, and then that's passed to the hippocampus, and that hippocampus then creates this memory and puts it into storage in the long-term storage or in your unconscious mind, ready, and that gets stimulated through the multi-store memory model. So that doesn't change really, that kind of stays as it is, and that creates our pattern behavior, and that's why it's really hard to change just by consciously changing, because we're trying to do it on the wrong level. We're trying to do it with the wrong system, should we say. It's almost like the wrong language. So what we do is with IEMT, we find out the emotions that people are experiencing at the moment. Say it's a fear, say it's feeling sad or guilty, whatever it might be. We get them to rate this feeling. We then get them to go to the first time they can remember feeling this way. Now, what this does, it sets up, first of all, a transderivational search, so a search over time. And then we go back to the first time. Going back to the first time that something happened is very therapeutic in itself. Knowing why you are the way you are is half the battle. Doing something about it is the second half, and IEMT does both. Now, IEMT is hard to do on yourself because you're very likely to not get back to the actual cause of the problem. Because somebody wants the problem that's happening now to have a big thing that started it to justify their current struggle, justify their current emotion. But it goes back to quite small things a lot of the time, getting lost in supermarkets, what a teacher said to you, all these things. And they tend to be kind of quite small incidences. But when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you don't know how to deal with them, and that's how it's then stored. So IEMT allows the client to go back with one foot in the present, going back to the past, and it allows them to essentially reprocess that imprint memory. And when that imprint memory is then reprocessed, we then reanalyze the feeling they have now, then we go to the next imprint. And it's like layers of an onion. So the reason why somebody feels the way they do now isn't usually because of one thing. It's usually because of several things that have happened. So if you think about like a river basin doesn't have one source. It has a main source, then other little sources as well. And so with IEMT, we're going back to these sources and basically plumbing up these, or plugging up these sources, and the river takes care of itself. The way I like to think about it as well, it's like we don't work on emotion, we work on memory that causes emotion. It's like a speaker and music. You could have a speaker next door playing music. There's no point trying to fight the music, right? Or by playing something else louder. And sometimes that's what a lot of therapy is. It's just trying to overpower the negative with something more positive. Now you just got loads of noise, right? In IEMT, we go and find the speaker and we turn it off. That's it, really. We go find the speaker, we turn it off. So we find the memories and we essentially sort of deactivate that memory in a way. We're not by overpowering, by allowing the client to see that memory from who they are today and having the time progression to see it as an adult, realizing it doesn't have any significance. And people really see things from different perspectives. They learn a lot about themselves. It's an exploration of a problem, not a solution. So it's outcome free. Because people go to therapy with like, I want to do this or I want to change in this kind of way. But I can say this is who I've helped before. So I help a lot of people with PTSD related stuff, really. And what the outcome of IEMT we're trying to achieve is mental and emotional clarity. So mental and emotional clarity, which is, I'm getting the song playing, sorry? Okay. So basically, so what it means is that in the present day, you can make decisions based on the information in front of you rather than your associations to the past. And when you're making your decisions based on what's in front of you and real evidence, you can begin to change your behavior without fighting all of these, emotional boundaries or limitations. So when you deal with the emotional work and then you start to actually change, so it's an opportunity to change. Um, you can start to really move your life in a different way. So you are then, because everybody has their comfort zone, their boundaries, and these are the things I like to explore. Why can't you go for that job interview? Why can't you speak to that person? Why can't you get on a plane? And rather than trying to overpower that feeling by making them feel great and super and Tony Robbins it, we understand what the problem is so we can essentially like dissolve and minimize the problem so they can go and do it. Then when you go do it, you're now getting new foundational memories. So the next time you do it, you'll bring in those memories and then those memories. So it makes things a lot easier to do by actually, instead of doing the same thing over and over, it gives you that space to think. So you don't have to react in the same way. You can do something different.
Are there any dangers or types of clients maybe that this would not be a good choice to try that you've
Yeah.
learned in your experience?
So IEMT is a set of tools. It's a set of tools. Now, imagine if you have screwdrivers and spanners and stuff like that. You could work on a cabinet or you could work on a Ferrari. It depends on the person using the spanners and the tools. So there's no prerequisites to actually do IEMT, but if it's the only thing that you do, obviously you have to work on quite low level issues essentially. There's also contraindications. That's things that you can't work on, things like epilepsy and sort of neurological problems, ocular, so problems with their eyes, because you're moving people's eyes. Things like psychosis. And generally, if somebody has a diagnosed medical condition or mental kind of condition, then you have to have the appropriate training to be able to deal with that condition. So we try to
Or
make
make
it
a
as safe.
referral, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we have to make it as safe as possible. But we have people who are mental health nurses. We have people who are psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors. human-centered counselors, psychotherapists. We have all these people learning this. Because what's great about IEMT is that it's a set of tools. It's a set of tools and a set of techniques. And it can be used on its own. It can be used on its own, and you're working with the client with what's coming up. Or you can use the tools and techniques in combination with something else. So a classic example of this is a talking therapist. Now, if you've been through something horrific and you say to your client, okay, tell me about that problem, tell me about that memory, tell me about that attack or whatever, what's likely to happen? The client is going to get re-traumatized, get upset. The therapist will say, here's a tissue, you're safe and all that. They'll stop crying and then they'll leave, and then they'll do it again next week and next week, right? Okay, so what's great about IEMT is that when you get to really emotional stuff, you can use IEMT on these really troublesome memories and emotions. And what people find is that they can observe the thing rather than be in the thing. I believe talking things through is really beneficial, but not if it's just going to re-traumatize you and cause you to be upset and make no progress. I don't think that's particularly nice for the client or the therapist. By doing some IEMT, and then they can talk about it quite matter-of-factly, I think works really, really well. So that's just one of
So
the
how
types of ways.
exactly, what is the technique of moving the person's eyes? I know you're very hand as you talk. Is that because you use your hands, or do you direct them, look to the right, look to the left? Or, that would be
So
bad for somebody with dyslexia.
so I use my
Okay.
hand. It's weird because I'm not on mirror here, so it's kind of, those carnival games where the mic goes a different way, so it's a bit kind of confusing.
Right.
So there's two different eye movements that we use. There's variations of them, but there's two different main ones that we use. We use like straight lines, and that goes on 3 different axes. And then there's the lazy 8, which is really weird to do, and that's used on more identity-based stuff, which we haven't even talked about yet. So there's no particular reason why we use those in the way that we do. From my understanding, the straight lined axes tend to work better on memory, and the figure of 8, or like the synchronization or the lazy 8 model that we use, tends to work better on identity stuff, because identity stuff tends to be more conceptual, bigger idea things kind of going on, because it's to do with more things. When we do the straight line stuff, it tends to go back to specific memories, and it's very kind of precise. It's digital, it's there or it's not. So what we believe is happening is that when you move the eyes, the reason why we go in that way is that it's not to do with eye accessing cues in NLP. Some people think it is. Fine. I don't think it is. When you move the eyes, we're trying to find out where the problem is. When you ask somebody to think about a troublesome memory, they will look somewhere, and that's where that then sets off the neurology for that memory, everything that's encoded with that memory. Okay. When you move the eye away from that, it's going to cause a deviation, especially if the problem's here, and if you're moving the eye this way, your eye is trying to get back to where it is. So essentially what we're doing is we're causing an interruption to that pathway. And we're doing that by stimulating the muscles around the eyes, which then communicates with the nerves. And obviously your brain is just, your eyes are just parts of your brain which come to the front of your head. And that's then stimulating the brain. I don't know what's happening in terms of research. I know there was research being conducted with scanners
Okay.
before and
I'm
after
going to let you
sessions.
stop right here a minute. We'll pick that up on the other side. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to the Holistic Nurse with Matt Kendall, and he's going to share some more about the integral eye movement techniques that he works with people all over the world.
Yeah, so I'll just finish that sort of little bit and then I'll move on to some examples of people I've worked with recently. So we believe that by moving the eyes, it communicates with the brain and that then helps to resolve the issues, creates like whole brain thinking. There is some stuff on the association website to do the research. I believe it's University of Stuttgart. I don't know much more about it at the moment, but they have done some stuff on it and they've done like scans like FRM scan, I can't say today, before and after sessions to show the brain activity. I don't know how to read them, but the scans are actually available to view online. Anyway, so some of the things that I've helped people with recently, I like fears and phobias because what's interesting about fears and phobias, people are very dismissive of them because they are, to the observer, a bit daft and a bit silly. To be scared of like a spider or a mouse or a wasp or something because it's a tiny little creature that can't really hurt you unless you have a very sort of unless you're in Australia and you know it's a huge spider, or if it's a rat, I wouldn't like a rat in my house, but when it's like a bee or a wasp or a ladybird or something like that, it usually causes quite a big reaction someday. And people often kind of make fun of people who have got things and they try to trigger them because people are mean. Um, what people don't realize is that when somebody has a fear or phobia or something, let's say it's like wasps or flies or bees or dogs, it can be hugely limiting on the quality of life. So in the UK, I suppose it's all over, during the summer, there's a lot of insects around. You know, first hot day, it seems to be loads of insects just kind of get born that day. And so if you have a fear of wasps or flies or bees, mainly bees and wasps, it really limits how much you can go outside, what you can do. You can't go out for picnics, you can't go to beer gardens, you can't go out into, you know, parks and stuff like that, you know, for the threat of what this sort of might happen. By the way, just to let you know, the cases which I'm talking about, I've done interviews with the people. They're on my YouTube channel if you want to actually watch the interviews with the people
Okay.
afterwards. So this woman who I worked with very briefly, I was doing a training down in London, and there was a woman there who had a very strong reaction to wasps and bees, to the point where she couldn't even really say it without getting quite flustered. And so we had a laptop in the room, and this guy got a picture of a bee on his laptop, and it wasn't even facing her. And even a picture of a bee or a wasp on a laptop in the room was causing quite a physiological response, which was quite interesting. So I said, "Look,
Well,
do
I
you want
want
to
to
see if you?"
interject right here. Actually, I'm one of those people that has to carry an EpiPen because, in my case, the bee would be a problem. I would stop breathing. So then
You see,
maybe
the
people
thing is
have
that,
different levels
and
of allergies too.
that's a valid
Right.
thing. That's a valid thing. This woman didn't have any kind of, you know, medical need,
Allergies.
should we say, like that,
Okay.
or allergy or anything like that. She just didn't like them. And so what I did, we got her up and we started regressing to the first time she could remember feeling this way. Did some eye movements, and then we started testing it. We tested it by moving the monitor, you know, the screen round, and she could actually look at it from a distance. We did a couple more rounds of this. It took about 6 or 7 minutes. It wasn't very long, to the point where she went and sat down and she was looking at this picture. She wasn't scared. She was kind of quite fascinated by it. She put up the picture next to her face and took pictures and sent them to her children and to her family. And they were like, what's going on? Because this is really weird of you. I did an interview with her a couple of weeks ago. Since that session, and when I say session, since that 6 or 7 minute thing that we did, her quality of life is very different. She's been able to enjoy summer, being out with her children, being out to parks. She actually captured a wasp in her house in a glass and actually took it out. She says before that wouldn't have even been a possibility. She'd had to get somebody else to come and do it. She said she was driving the other day and a wasp flew in through the window. So what she did, she opened the other window and it flew out. And her daughter was just gobsmacked. She said before, if a wasp had flown in while she was driving, that could have caused her to lose control of the car. Because she had been so scared of it. So it could have actually caused an accident. So now she doesn't necessarily like wasps. She's not going out, she's not taking a beekeeper course or anything like that. But what it is then she just doesn't really care about them. And for me, just not caring about something is the best result. Rather than sort of loving the wasp or whatever it might be, just not caring about it. So I've helped a lot of people with things like this. Fear of flying. I helped with somebody recently who had a really bad fear of flying because he was involved in a very bad flight with a lot of turbulence. And now obviously he's worried about that and all this other kind of stuff. On his first flight, after we did the sessions, he didn't like it, but he got through it and there was turbulence on that flight. On the second flight he took a few days later, he fell asleep. He just didn't care. Because what happens when you do that thing again, and I really like tangible things that people want to go and achieve. So not just like, oh, I want to feel better, but what do you want to do if you felt better? So, oh, I have low confidence. If you had confidence, what would you be specifically doing that you're not doing now? So I like to actually help people to achieve tangible goals. So I love it when people have a fear of flying and they send me a picture of them on a plane or on holiday, or people with fear of deep water and they're on a boat taking pictures, actual real world evidence. So on my YouTube channel, IEMT practitioner, I believe it is. You'll find, just type in Matt Kendall or IEMT, you'll find me. I have got loads of interviews with people who I've worked with. And I've worked with a lot of people who have been through a lot of horrible, horrible stuff where they think they wouldn't be able to get better. When you've been through some horrific PTSD, horrible things, which people believe are seared into their brain and they're going to be angry, upset, and frightened for the rest of their life, it's amazing in literally just 2 or 3 sessions how you can alleviate a lot of this and their quality of life vastly improves without the need of medication, without the need of lifelong therapy. And sometimes I work with somebody who's been in therapy for 5 years and haven't really made any progress. And they have a few sessions of IEMT and it completely changes their outlook and their own self perspective. So I find it's an incredibly powerful set of tools that works with most of the people most of the time. It doesn't work with everybody, it doesn't work on everything. But generally, if somebody's been damaged by life, there's a very good chance that IEMT will work on that. So when I say damaged by life, if they've suffered sort of trauma, stuff that's happened to them, if they are doing something to their life, like addiction and stuff like that, there's probably better things you can use them. And I'm not qualified to really work with addictions, that kind of stuff anyway. But basically, if you've been sort of damaged by life, IEMT is a great set of tools, and there's about 8 or 9 different tools within IEMT, and they all do a different thing, but they can be used in different ways. And again, it's incredibly versatile and used by so many different practitioners, from personal trainers to dietitians, to yoga therapists, to public speaking trainers, to driving instructors, dentists, a lot of NLPers, a lot of hypnotherapists, because a lot of hypnotherapists, their clients don't want to be hypnotized. So if you only do hypnotherapy and your client doesn't want to be hypnotized, what should we do? And so with IEMT, you can actually work on the fear of why they don't want to be hypnotized as well. But also IEMT is a cooperation between you and the client. You are going on this journey together. You're working together. The therapist or the practitioner is leading it, but you're doing it together. What I didn't like about hypnosis, somebody coming to my office go, right, I want you to hypnotize me, stop me smoking, wake me up, and I'm a different person. Like, well, wait a minute, what's it got to do with me? Well, we really sort of need to work together
Right.
on this. So what I love about IEMT is an exploration of the problem with you and the client, figuring out why you are the way you are, why you behave the way that you do, so you can update it, so you can change.
Years ago, I had a situation, and I never realized that spiders bothered me that much or anything. But I had gone into my son's apartment. My grandson was about 8 or 9, and they weren't home. I was going to get dinner started, and I saw this big black hairy spider. So I immediately grabbed the biggest Pyrex bowl I could find, put it over it because I couldn't step on it. It was too big to step on. And then I put the telephone book and some of my medical textbooks on top of it and left him there. And I left the apartment. I didn't stay. So when
Yeah.
my son got home a couple hours later, he said to me, "Well, where did you think Reese's plastic spider was going to go?" It was a toy spider.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah.
So
No, I can imagine. And it's a lot of things with spiders and fears and phobias. It's generally not that person's phobia. It tends to be learnt generally from a parent. Broad brushstrokes, generally women who have got fears of mice and spiders and wasps and stuff tends to come from seeing how their mum reacted when they were young, and they've kind of taken it on as their own. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be through their own exposure to certain things, but generally it tends to be from what they've learned from somebody else, from their primary caregiver, as opposed to actually having the direct experience themselves. But IMT actually works on both. So
okay.
yeah, so it's
Well,
incredible. It's incredibly versatile. So
that is fascinating. Had there been any times you've tried it and just got no results at all, and just suggested we try a different technique next time or something?
yeah, absolutely. So when I do a consultation with a client, I do a demo with them, and if that demo doesn't really work, it's generally I either say IMT is not the path for you. We can look at hypno. This is when I was in person. We can look at hypnosis instead if you like, or we can look at some more kind of coaching. But I don't think IMT is going to be suitable. And sometimes I had this one client, and they just didn't have the ability to follow along of holding onto a memory while following my fingers. They wouldn't keep their head still. They would. I just couldn't. They just, you know what I mean. It just wasn't. It just wasn't right for them. But I've worked
So I
with.
guess you don't work with children then, or anybody on the
I don't
spectrum
work
or
with
something.
children. I've worked with some children with their parents present because they've been through some horrific a car crash where a parent died, kind of level of bad.
Mhm.
I've had the parent present in my office. However, I train people who work with children. I train people who are specific child therapists, and IMT is fantastic for working with children because they don't have to talk about the problem. It's like a game, trying to hold on to that bad
Right.
memory, trying to hold on to that bad feeling kind of thing. So you can really gamify it for children. So I've got loads of people working with children. There's an actual woman in our association called Mavis Kerrigan, who's a former school teacher, and she specializes with IMT for children. So I just don't like work. I don't like working with children. It's not my thing. But loads of people do work with children. It's very, very effective.
Okay, we're going to take another brief break, and then you can talk about how people can reach you, and since you're
Cool.
international now and can reach us. So we'll be right back.
Cool.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
This has been fascinating. Lots of information, Matt. We only have about 5 minutes left. How can people get in touch with you? And
So
there's your
my
website,
website,
one of your websites. Yeah.
yeah, so one of my websites has just come up now, IEMTpractitionertraining.com. If you go on there, you can get the training booklet, pamphlet or whatever, ebook. I put it together. You can just download that completely free of charge, and that will tell you all about the course, the breakdown of the course, and how you become certified. So basically, the weekend, it's a weekend course. So it's a 2-day course, 9:30 till 5 on 2 days, and that's in UK time, which I know is daft o'clock a lot of the time around the world. And on the first day, we're really looking at troublesome memories and emotion. And in the second day, we're looking at identity and PTSD, basically PTSD models and how we sort of work with those. And then what you do after the training, you go and work with 2 clients and submit case studies. You do a 20-minute recording of any part of the session, which you submit over to me, just to make sure you're working, doing it correctly. And then if all your case studies and everything are all up to scratch, you can then join the association and become a certified practitioner of IEMT. In the UK, you can get insurance either individually for that, or you can just add it onto your existing policy. Most people who do my training are already certified and qualified in some kind of therapy background. If you're not, it doesn't matter. You can, I believe you should be able to get insurance straight out. I can't give advice for people around the world because I don't know. Only in the UK, I can actually give advice on that. And it's open to all. It's one weekend of your life, but it's absolutely life changing. So on the weekend, I demonstrate everything, and I work with pretty much every single person in the training as well. And so you'll get to experience IEMT. And so the way that it's like a 4-step process. There's an explanation of the module, a demonstration of the technique. You then go into a breakout room with one other person to try the technique yourself. And then we come back in and do a review and questions and results of that technique. And then we move on to the next technique. And so it's like 8 techniques over 2 days, and we go through 8, 9, and we sort of go through each technique sequentially, and you get experience in every single one. And what I like is that people are excited to use these techniques, this system, these tools as soon like they're excited to get out there, start using it with their current clients, doing their case studies. And you can do your case studies and become certified, within a month if you get on it. And you tend to get a lot of referrals because when people go for therapy and counseling in the UK, there's still a bit of a shame around going for therapy. It's like admitting there's something wrong with you. When people come for IEMT, it's so different. You don't have to talk about the things. It's all content free. And you look a lot different. When you bring people out of panic states, their face looks different, their gait looks different, their body language, how they're speaking, how they're acting can really change very fast. And so I worked with somebody from America who was in a skyscraper during 9/11. And so she developed a horrible lift phobia because she got stuck in the lift. There was a big power outage. And she now lives on the 37th floor in Manhattan, because Manhattan. And getting her in and out of the lift was a big deal. She needed family, she needed friends holding hands, supporting, deep breaths. I worked with her for one session, and her friends went to go pick her up because they're doing brunch. And they came into the vestibule, the entrance, and the door opened, and she walked out of the lift. And they were like, "Right, what's
That's
happening here?
fascinating.
What's going on here?" Now, she doesn't like getting in the lift, but she can get in the lift unaided without it causing panic and terror. And the more she does it, the more easier it becomes as well now. I worked with all of her friends because they all had things they kind of wanted to work on. Which is like, oh yes, this eye movement thing, and one session or two sessions, and I'm really, and so you tend to get a lot of referrals. And it's
That's
just a really
fascinating.
exciting, yeah.
Besides because we're just about running out of time, your YouTube channel, would that just be at Matt Kendall, or how does
No,
that go?
it's at IEMT practitioner. So
Okay.
youtube.com/at IEMT practitioner. I've got hundreds of hours of content on there. There's 60 odd interviews with people who've done the training, and they go from 20 minutes to an hour each one. So regardless of your background, RTT, hypnosis, NLP, counselor, NHS, psychiatrist, psychologist, there's an
Right.
interview that will resonate with you. And also there's loads of demonstrations, and we're doing IEMT, and there's also interviews of me doing interviews with people who have been through IEMT as my clients. And I put out content every week. I do Q&As every week.
So I've been following that. Yes, very interesting. Thank you for joining us this week. It's been a pleasure to see you again. I'll be
You
in
too.
touch real soon.
Thank you very much.
You guys know how to reach Matt if you would like more information on this. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and share. We will see you next Thursday on The Holistic Nurse with Peggy Smith. Thank you. Have a great week.
This has been The Holistic Nurse with host Peggy Smith. Tune in each week where you're encouraged to send in questions and receive private responses and suggestions if appropriate. Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern.